for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and as usual, we're in the WYSL studio with Bob Savage.
Hello, welcome to Friday, everyone.
Yeah, welcome to Friday. So I know I told you guys on Monday that today we were going to talk about vaccines and the vaccine bill passed in New York State. I totally forgot on Monday that there was going to be two Democratic presidential debates this week. So we're going to hit the debates first, and then if there's time, we'll talk about vaccines. If not, we'll talk about vaccines on Monday. So I wanted to give you guys that brief heads up. Also, I only got to see about the first hour and 15 minutes of the first debate. So I'm missing about an hour of content there, but I did watch the full debate last night. Part of the reason for that was on Wednesday, I had a wisdom tooth taken out. So
might as well make it a painful day.
Yeah,
all the way around.
So, and actually, to be honest, the pain has been really good. You know, knock on wood, no issues.
I had mine taken out. I had one at a time when I was about 55, and it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, I was expecting this horrible thing, and the only thing I just took some aspirin a couple of times.
Yeah, that's basically, I take a little bit of ibuprofen here or there just to make sure the swelling stays under control, but so far, knock on wood, pretty good. The brief little story behind that, just to share it with you guys. I went maybe 3 or 4 years ago to the dentist for a teeth cleaning, and they said, "Oh, you gotta have this wisdom tooth removed. It's impacted. It's a problem. We're gonna send you off." I go to the surgeon a couple weeks later, and he says, "Hey, I can't take this tooth out." I say, "What? Why not?" He says, "Well, you're missing one on the other side. If I pull this tooth out, there's no support for this middle tooth on the other side. It'll fall over. You got to go to an orthodontist, have him move the tooth, then I can pull it out." Okay. Go to orthodontist, and they say, "Hey, who sent you?" I said, "Well, the surgeon." They're like, that's highly irregular. I don't know why the surgeon would have sent you instead of your dentist." So the orthodontist checks me out. He goes, "Listen, you're going to need 2.5 years worth of full braces, bands, everything to move this tooth.
Good Lord.
Thousands of dollars, the whole everything."
Kidding.
This was like literally maybe 90 days before my wedding. And I was like, "Oh, there's no way I'm going to have a full mouth of braces for my wedding." So I was like, "Listen, it doesn't hurt. It's not bothering me. Not going to do it." Last week, I go for another tooth cleaning, and they go, "Hey, you still have this tooth. Why didn't you get rid of it?" I tell them the story. They go, "That's not the tooth we said to extract."
Oh, my God.
They said it was number 17, not number 32. And I'm like, wow, I am just so happy that I didn't go through 2.5 years worth of braces, thousands of dollars just to have them pull the wrong tooth.
Oh, my gosh. So, how'd they mess that up?
I don't know who messed it up. I don't know where it got messed up. Clerical error is my assumption, I'm just really happy that I didn't end up going through all that, because I would not have been happy at all.
You're lucky there wasn't any amputation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've heard when they do surgeries, a lot of times they'll have you initial what they're going to do, with a Sharpie or something like that, just to make sure. So I made sure going into it this time that I knew exactly which number tooth it was so I could confirm. And the surgeon was great. It was awesome. Things went well. So, that's a little bit about me and my personal life. We're going to talk about the Democratic debate, because I think it's worth discussing. I'm sure every talk show in America has already discussed it. So I'm going to try to hit a few things that are hopefully different, but maybe not, and give you guys my perspective on what's going on here. But before I do that, I want to pose a question to everybody listening to the show. Those of you listening on the radio waves, those of you listening on social media. And I really want you to think about this, because any politician running for office, whether you're an incumbent running for re-election, whether you're running against an incumbent trying to take a seat, you should be asking your constituents this question as a part of your pitch for office. And that question is your life better today than it was 4 years ago or 2 years ago or 6 years ago? Whenever that term comes about, you should be asking that question. And I didn't see that question come up at all. And I didn't see people addressing that question at all during these debates. I heard a lot of ideas as, various things that are problems now, but I didn't see anybody addressing what progress has or has not been made since the last election. So that's something I want everybody to think about, because I think that that's a really important aspect, when you're looking at any election, and there's much more to it than this, but every candidate should be able to answer that question, whether they're running for re-election or running against somebody for re-election. You should be able to ask that question and be confident in the answers that you're going to receive and how you're going to address them. So the other thing I want to do is say kudos to the moderators. I mean, one of the things that I really appreciated about this is some of these people on the stage would give 60 seconds of what I would consider verbal vomit, is what I call it. Just rambling on with no real substance, no answer. And then at the end, the moderator would go, so I'm just going to give you 10 more seconds so you can actually answer the question. Here it is again, which is something that I've had to do lately with politicians as well, as I've been interviewing them. So I just appreciated that they didn't let them get away with it. And there were even some instances where the moderator moved on to the next person and basically flat out said, well, so-and-so didn't answer the question, will you? And that to me is at least holding them accountable and letting people see that there should be accountability. Because I feel at times the media allows candidates to get away with that and to not actually get substance out of their answers. So I was happy to see that. The other thing I gotta say this, guys, right out of the gate, we got to get something straight here. And I hope there's some Democrats listening to this show. I know there are, because you guys reach out to me and it's great. I love hearing from you. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. Somebody's paying for it. And if you're working, chances are it's you. Free college, free medical, free anything. None of it's free. It's not free. And I heard so much about free healthcare, free public education, free college education, free this, free that.
Free federal minimum wage.
Yeah, free, let's just be honest with ourselves on a fundamental level that these things do get paid for. Somebody gets paid at the end of the day. And where that money comes from is it comes from the taxpayer. So listen, if you're a proponent of that and you believe that that's correct, that we should be using taxpayer dollars to fund your program, at least be honest and say that it's taxpayer dollars funding the program. If you're still advocating at that and you're being transparent about it, great. Good for you. Just be transparent. I'm going to disagree with you, but at least you're being transparent and open, because what I've found over the last few years, and this is just extremely disappointing to me, is that a lot of people hear free and they actually think it's free. And they don't understand the repercussions, because politicians are just straight lying about this stuff. And I know the listeners on the show, you guys get this already, but I've got to put it out there because I heard it so many times. And it was just so frustrating. It was really frustrating to hear all this free stuff.
Yeah, free healthcare, free. We're going to have free college education, and we're going to take away all of the college debt, except for you poor unfortunates who've already paid off your student loans. I guess you're just like, SOL. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. Anybody who thinks about this for a minute, I mean, an eighth grader understands that somebody has to pay for something. And a corollary of this whole thing is, too, when it comes to rights, you keep on hearing you have a right to health care, you have a right to a job, you have a right to a living wage, you have a right to a place to live. You have no rights that come at the expense of somebody else.
Yeah, and my copy of the Constitution doesn't list all those things. So, guys, when we come back here on Radio Free New York, the next thing I'm going to talk about is why people should be really, really ashamed of this debate. So we're going to talk about that on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
You're listening to Radio Free New York
on the WYSL stations.
Billy Madison was watching the debates last night.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Well, there you go. And I don't know that I totally disagree with him, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know. He's probably half right, So here's the thing. Well, first, let me welcome you guys to the show. It's Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. Want to welcome those I see pouring in here in the live stream. Welcome Carrie, Michelle, John, Barbara, and Jason. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you to our viewers on YouTube and Periscope and Twitter, and of course our listeners on the WYSL stations. We're talking about the first two rounds of the Democratic debate, and the first thing I want to say to my friends who are Democrats who watch this debate, you should really be ashamed of the candidates and their performance, and I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to be here on your side as a friend here for a moment,
because we're the station that cares.
Yes, exactly, and just tell you how you should hold your candidates to a higher standard, I think is the best that I can say here. And the first thing I took away from this is most of the candidates really don't understand the issues. They have no clue. And what's worse is they don't understand the laws that already exist. So they're sitting there arguing for policies that are already on the books. They're talking about stuff that has been law for like 10 years already. Well, if I was president, I would push for this. It's like, hey, guy, we already have that. Like, come on, bring something to the table. I always listen to this stuff with an open mind. I had some surprising takeaways and some things that we'll talk about later in the show. But I felt like through most of both of the debates, I heard them talking about a lot of things that A, they didn't understand the process on how to make it work, or B, they didn't understand the process or the legality of what's already in place. And that to me is that's a big issue. Now, you could make the argument that, hey, they'll learn along the way. Look, Trump, he didn't have any experience. He made it. I get that. But, you've got 20 people up there, and I would say maybe 3 in total actually understood some of the things they were talking about, which is just really disappointing. And then they would be called out by other people on the stage like, hey, this section of law already covers this. And they didn't adjust. They didn't adapt and overcome. They just kind of like doubled down on on the fact that they didn't understand the law that was already in place. So that's number one, like hold your candidates to a higher standard, help them understand the policies they're talking about. The other thing that this has been an ongoing issue. Please teach your kids this, because obviously the schools aren't. Clearly, the public education system is failing us. We still have candidates in 2019 running for president that don't understand that the United States is a constitutional republic, not a democracy.
I'm referring to it as a democracy, our democratic principles. That's actually okay. I mean, the democratic principles, that's okay because that's referring to elective office. But the United States is not a democracy.
No, that's a great distinction. Yes, if you're talking about democratic principles, even the democratic process, you can kind of get away with. But when you say our democracy, it threatens our democracy and this and that, you're either doing it on purpose and you're purposely trying to disinform the general population.
I don't think so.
Or you just don't know the difference, which is why you're struggling on stage, fighting with law that already exists, because you don't understand our government and you're running for the highest executive office to run a system that you just don't understand.
Dana Lash had a great line yesterday. She referred to the Democrat debates as America's got no talent.
There you go. There you go. I'm not going to say, I watched it and there were some things that I sat there and I was like, you know what? I'm glad I watched this. There was other stuff that I was like, holy crap, this was such a waste of time. But, I like being educated and stuff. And it's funny. I was sitting here and thinking like, crap, I don't even know most of these people's names.
I know. It's like, who's
I'm
that?
like, crap, who was it that said that? And then I was like, you know what? It almost doesn't matter because they're not going to be there anyways.
Right.
So it's one of those things that
monumental waste of time.
Yeah.
Which is why I wound up at the Rochester Jazz Festival yesterday watching George Benson instead of sitting and watching the Tube and watching nitwits yell at each other. And defame Trump, by the way. That was the dominant theme last night, if you caught it. Bash Trump, bash. He's a liar. He's a bigot. He's a racist. He's all these ridiculous things, which he clearly is not.
Sure. And don't get me wrong. There's a strategy behind that in American politics today, but there was so little substance on like actual issues and actual action that it was a problem. Because it's like, okay, what differentiates all 20 of you? You all don't like Trump. Okay, I got that. You don't like this policy. I get that too. Anybody at the table got some substance for me, though? I'd like to hear some action. And there was some. We're going to get to that. But for the most part, there wasn't much. And both debates lasted 2.5 hours. So we're talking 5 hours worth of debate with very little substance attached to it.
Because for all that, for the length of the debates, because of the sheer number of candidates there were, most candidates had at most plus or minus about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And some of them as little as in the first night, I think one or two candidates got like 4.5.
There were some candidates that was like, oh, I forgot you were on stage. You're talking again. Oh, holy crap. I forgot about this guy. So the next thing for my friends who would consider yourself a leftist, a liberal, a Democrat, something you should really be ashamed on, and I think that my conservative friends are going to be upset with me saying this, but I'm speaking to the Democrats here, so bear with me. You guys should be really ashamed at how weak they are on their immigration policies. I tell you what, on Monday, I think it was Monday. I can't remember. It might have been Monday. We talked about the difference between decriminalization and legalization. And all of the Democrat candidates that I heard speak about the border and what they were going to do said that they wanted to decriminalize illegal immigration and make it a civil matter. Here's the thing. If you're going to go that far, you're just costing the taxpayer so much money. At that point, if you really believe in this, if this is truly your calling, you should have said legalization. Like, that's what they should have said. They should have just gone for open borders. If we make this a civil matter, what did we gain? We didn't. Just more money. That's all it is. It's just going to cost us more. Now we've got things tied up in courts. We're never going to see the money anyways. So we're just burning and burning and burning through taxpayer dollars. If you're truly a Democrat that really believes in this, you should have been so upset with them. You know, the idea that that they took that, what I would consider, if I was a Democrat, I'd say that's a pretty weak stance. I don't know what you think, Bob, but I think if I was a Democrat sitting here, I would feel like that was just kind of like weak pandering, you know, with no real substance to it.
Well, the one thing that's apparent to me from both nights is that the Democrats are the party of open borders. They keep on dancing around the issue, and they keep on trying to finesse it, and they keep on trying to dress it up with, you know, decriminalization versus legalization, and giving immigrants, which they're not. An immigrant is somebody who's here with legal status. They got to come out of the shadows. They need to be protected. You know, we've got these families are being abused in detention centers for keeping kids in cages. It's all just a bunch of bunk. It really is. They're the open borders party. They want no border. They want no control. They want to be able to import a permanent poverty class that will be forever dependent on government and will vote Democrat.
Yeah, and my point is, if you're a Democrat and that's what you're for, why don't you go with legalization? Because decriminalization is going to be so much more expensive. You know what I mean? It's so much more expensive for the American.
Right.
And I know that my conservative friends on the station are probably like, oh, I can't hear this. But, you know, once again, I'm talking to the Democrats here. I'm talking about, listen, if you are going to go down this path, at least do it right. You know, at least save us some dollars, will you? You know,
it's okay, conservatives. It's not going to happen anyway. You'll be all right. But it's the same increment. See, there's a reason why they're called progressives, because what they do is they just go a step at a time. They're like cockroaches. You know, every night they get out and they do their thing, and they do their work. And the same thing for Democrats and progressives. This is the same process we went through on the march to single payer health care. Remember, we were told in 2009 with Obamacare's launch, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your health plan, blah blah. No, you can't. And now we tried to tell everybody back then that, look, this is just a way station on the way to single payer and the elimination of private insurance for healthcare. And we were scoffed at, we were mocked. That's stupid. We're not. No, nobody's. And now look at what they're doing in the debates. Yeah. The Democrats are openly calling for single payer.
Yep. And actually, healthcare was the next piece that I had on here. That they're really weak on healthcare. Really weak. They are still chasing after archaic, broken systems that have been proven not to work time and time again. Yet here you are. You've got 20 people up there, and I think only 2, if I recall. And like I said, I didn't see the whole part of the first one, so I could be inaccurate with this. 2 of them said the private market is good. There should be competition, but they also want to create a government option, you know, which is like not so terrible compared to everybody else who's like, you know, some of the people, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, were like, we need to eliminate private companies that run healthcare and like all this other stuff. And it's like, whoa, like we've seen this before. It hasn't worked out real good. You're talking about VA for everybody. And, you know, that's not. It's just not good.
And also the elimination of how many millions of jobs in the private healthcare insurance industry?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, you know, government will pick them up, though. Government will be the safety net there. For, you know, government's already the largest employer.
Let's make them bigger.
Yeah. Just make government bigger. That's what they're doing. You know, I'll leave you guys with this, though, before we take the break. An hour and 8 minutes into that first debate, de Blasio says that the Democratic Party needs to stop being the party of the elites. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I'm going to say this on air, but I think I agree with de Blasio on this statement. Like, holy crap, coming from an elite. So there you guys have it. We'll be back here in a moment on Radio Free New York.
You're listening to the voice of liberty. WYSL. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, FM 95.5 Spencerport, and WYSL1040.com everywhere.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182.
Yeah, you know, I think I looked in that box, but I'll double check.
00-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York on WYSL. AM 1040, FM 92.1, and FM 95.5 West.
Welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We're talking about the first round of Democratic debates last night and the night before. Some takeaways here. And one thing I'm just going to lead out for you guys is that this scares me. And I'll tell you why. Republicans, when they make radical promises, this is going to make some of you upset. I don't really trust that they're going to follow through with them because they just haven't. You know, things like constitutional carry, repealing Obamacare, things like that. And I say radical with quotes, you know, things that appeal to me that I think are important. You know, we had majority all across the board. That didn't happen. We didn't get those promises. When Democrats make radical promises, I actually believe that they're going to do it. So that's the difference there. That's what scares me. You know, when I see this, it's like, this is really what these people believe. And they're open with it. They're forward with it. And they are going to do it if they possibly can. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here is healthcare, because healthcare was discussed a lot. And I think that there's actually some common ground for Americans here, because I think we can all, or just about all of us, agree that medical insurance, notice I didn't say healthcare, is far too expensive with not the right amount of coverage. and that pharmaceutical companies putting millions and millions of dollars into congressional campaigns and lobbying has been bad for us as a country. I think that you can sit on any side of the aisle and you can agree with those two statements. But I think that something that people are still confused about, and you saw it on the debate stage constantly, that is that health insurance is not health care. They are different things. And if we want to address health care, you can't just address it through health insurance.
Right.
So that to me right there is just another distinction that these candidates aren't making. Government as a whole is not making them. Insurance is a product created based on risk. You know, when you insure your car, your insurance company isn't letting you pay $200 a month on a $50,000 car, assuming that they're going to be replacing it. If they thought they were going to replace it, then they would charge you much more. They calculate the risk, they figure out where you fall in that risk zone, and they create your rates based on that. Well, Obama,
or even the overall availability of insurance coverage at all.
Exactly.
If the risk is too great, they just won't insure you.
Yeah, absolutely. Which
and
is
that's the thing that cracks me up. There's a major insurance company in the region here, and it's part of the state, insurance program. And you see these billboards, and they say, "Let's get everyone covered." Mm-hmm. So everybody thinks, "Whoa, well that's good. Everybody should be covered," except for if you go in and the coverage is lousy and it doesn't cover anything.
Yeah, what
does it mean to be covered?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen these health insurance plans where you're paying close to $1,200 a month for you and your family, and with a $6,000 deductible.
Right.
So you're out of pocket already before your insurance even kicks in, close to $18,000, $20,000.
Right. Which is crazy.
Yeah. So it's health insurance is not health care, and we need to stop looking at the two as the same. Now, the thing that you probably heard just countless times throughout this debate, they called it a debate. It didn't really seem like a debate to me. Maybe a candidate forum would have been a better description for it.
Free for all.
But yeah, free for everybody and Medicare for all. That's the thing that I heard so many times. I heard Medicare for undocumented immigrants, which is something we'll touch on a little bit here too. There was a statement, I don't recall who made it, and they said private insurance, this might have been de Blasio that said this, I'm not sure. Private insurance is not working for tens of millions of people. And this was their argument towards Medicare for all. And I'll tell you what, well, yeah, government broke it with Obamacare. I mean, with all those regulations that they created, 20,000 pages worth of regulations, where my health insurance now has to cover body parts that as a male I don't even have.
Yeah, we're going to also erect, while we're at it, $1 trillion federal bureaucracy, and we're going to save money.
Yeah.
We're going to cut costs.
So my response to that is, listen, free markets work. We've seen this. We've seen this everywhere. When government steps in and creates regulation, that's when things start getting expensive. When government steps in and starts taking away choice, that's when things become expensive. When government steps in and they create monopoly, that's when things get really, really expensive. So monopoly on health insurance is absolutely not the right way to go on healthcare. Not at all. Yet I think 17 of those 20 candidates were for that, and one of the questions was, raise your hand if you would abolish private insurance in the United States, and the hands were going up, and I was like, I can't believe these people would even admit to that.
And meanwhile, the audience is going, yay!
Yeah,
they're all clapping like clapping seals. Yeah. It's like, who are these nitwits?
Yep. And it's interesting because another quote that was in there is, people don't want to keep their private health insurance plans. They want to keep their doctors. It's like, yeah, we've gone through this once. Remember, we lost our doctors. We lost our healthcare providers. There's no doubt about it.
We couldn't keep them.
Yep.
And we liked them, but we could not keep them.
Yeah. So what you see on the Democratic table right now for debate between these candidates is the idea of eliminating private insurance companies versus having government create a competing product with private insurance companies. That seems to be what they're actually debating. Why? They're not debating how do we actually fix healthcare?
Yeah. See, once again, note the incremental nature of this. They're going to create a parallel system. And why are they going to do that? Because what they're going to do is they're going to use all kinds of trickery to manipulate people into the public option.
Yep.
And then they're going to point out that the private doesn't work so well anymore because they've been rating, the best accounts. And so the private will just wither and die.
Yeah, because what they'll do is they will run this private government insurance at a loss, like every other government program gets ran at. We always have a deficit. We're always taking on more debt.
Amtrak, the post office, 236 years of losses.
Yeah. So they'll run this program at a loss. What they'll do, they'll fund it with your money. So there's nothing free about it, but they'll run it at a loss where they're not making anything. They're not even breaking even. They'll start putting private companies out of business and then say, look, government works. Come over here. And you'll start to get awful care again. And on top of that, your taxes will continue to go up. Our deficit will continue to go up. And all while still not actually fixing or addressing an issue, creating more unemployment. I mean, this would just be a total mess. And one of the candidates even said, we talked to some of the best hospitals in the area and asked them if all their payments came from Medicare, how would they perform? And every single one of them, 100% of them said the same thing. We would close and go out of business. So people are literally advocating for a system that will put healthcare providers out of business. It's just that simple. So I've just got a huge problem with it. I mean, I have a huge problem with monopoly to begin with, but I wanted to talk about the issue a little bit more in depth so that people understand what's really being talked about. Because what they say on stage, I could see people hearing and going, yeah, I need healthcare. Yeah, my healthcare is expensive. I want that. It sounds like what these people are talking about is reasonable. But once you start understanding what it really means and what the next 10, 20 years will look like as a long-term result of this, it's going to look like even worse care. Doctors and other medical professionals being paid even less, which means they're going to not be as motivated, and a system that's going to cost way more than anticipated. And let's not forget too, because history repeats itself. Vermont, I think it was California and Washington, 3 states have already tried Medicare for all, and it failed miserably. They couldn't even find the money to implement it, let alone get it moving. So if we can't do it on even a small scale, how are we going to be successful putting, 300 million people, I think is what it is, on this plan? Plus, in addition to that, I think every single candidate on the stage, I don't know if any of them said the Medicare for all would also be for undocumented immigrants.
Right. How about that?
I don't even know what number that is.
No, nobody knows what that is. Yeah, it's very interesting. There was a discussion on another show about what is the number of the illegals in the country right now, or if you prefer, undocumented workers. All right. Back in the Bush era, 15 years ago, we were using the phrase 11.5 million, undocumented illegals in the country. They're still using that number. It's
been a little while since then, though.
Yeah, 15 years, about 15 years. Yeah. And, you talk to ICE, you talk to Border Patrol, they laugh at that number. They're saying, we're getting 1,000 people a day.
Yeah.
So we've accumulated, 100,000 people a month now for a year and a half, and we're still at 11 million? No, we're not. We're at some point. Right. I'm saying illegals, I'll bet you there's 30 million in the country.
30 million. There you go.
10% of the population of the country now, illegal aliens.
So there you go. You've got even more people to cover. And I'll tell you what. So I'll be traveling to Europe in the month of August. And one of the things that I was looking at just for fun, at the country that I was going to, I said, I wonder what health insurance costs over here if you're not a citizen. And they actually their providers have health insurance plans that you can purchase a year's worth of health insurance in these countries as somebody who's not a citizen of that country. So not free, purchased. 1,500 euros for 5 million euros of coverage.
That's a good deal.
It. It's a little more than $100 a month for a better healthcare system. We clearly have it wrong, and Medicare for All is not the answer. Guys, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk immigration on Radio Free New York.
Downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
I'm Las from Action Towing and Service. The people really make this place incredible. I feel at home. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with. The owner of the business is actively involved. He is a veteran. We have a very close relationship with all of the staff. Every employee there is known by name, and we really, really work hard on giving that home feel, or the family feel. Please give us an opportunity to win your business. Come down and visit us at 275 Marketplace Drive, right off of Jefferson Road.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York
on the WYSL stations.
All right. Welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We're talking about the first round of the 2019 Democratic presidential debates. And I've got a few things I want to run through with you guys. So we'll see if we get to them. I want to talk about the discussion about immigration. I want to talk about some of the Second Amendment stuff. And then I want to talk about just kind of Washington political insider stuff. So we'll see if we can squeeze that into the next 10 minutes or so. If not, we'll pick it back up on Monday.
There's always Monday.
There's always Monday. Yep. So immigration, I kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the show, that I think all the candidates said they wanted to decriminalize illegal immigration. If that's, I don't remember anybody saying that they weren't going to do that. And I kind of feel like a few of the candidates, they didn't really feel that way, but when they saw everybody else's hand went up, they were like, crap. I guess
get my hand up
too. I better put my hand up. Really, if I was a Democrat running on that panel, I would have kept my hand down, and the panelists would have pointed me out and said, "Hey, you didn't do that. Why?" And then once again, if this was me, I would have said, "Well, decriminalization doesn't fix the problem. Legalization at least wouldn't cost us as much as decriminalization." And I would have had that conversation. But not a single one of them had the balls to do that. In fact, what I think is half of them felt pressured into decriminalization, and they just kind of went with it because that's what everybody else was doing.
Well, they're terrified of the issue.
They are.
I mean, they really are. They just don't want to deal with it. So their default position is open borders. Yeah. That's really where they are.
Yeah, and it's not even real open open borders, it's fake open borders that would be way more expensive than actually having open borders. But they don't want to talk about that either. I don't think they really even understand it. I could be wrong. Maybe they do understand it and they're just kind of happy with, thinking like, oh, this will never happen.
Well, they're getting their way now because they're getting all these undocumented, future Democrat voters flooding the border.
Sure.
They're going to be completely dependent upon government. What's the party of big government?
Mm-hmm. Democrat Party. So the other thing that I found really interesting was they pulled out kind of a hot question on Biden where they said, hey, during the Obama administration, you guys deported 3 million people. What do you have to say about that? Now he was kind of struck for a second, like he had nothing to say and almost started to stutter over that. And then he was response, and I think he just wasn't expecting it to come up at all. I think he was expecting a free pass and was put on the spot and just could not answer the question. So I found that kind of entertaining anyways, and thought it was worth bringing up if you didn't get a chance to see it. So we're going to roll on to Second Amendment issues here. But before we do this, I had a little note to myself that one of the candidates said last night, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly what she said, but I happen to agree with her. And she said, when government commits a crime, it's still a crime. And I'm like, man, I wish that we would actually hold government accountable that way. 90% of the things that came out of that lady's mouth, I did not agree with. But I was like, man, if we could all look at it this way, that when government commits a crime, it's still a crime, I think we would be in a much better place today. But that's not how the majority of Americans appear to be looking at things. They appear to give government a free pass. When government does something, it appears to be okay. And that's all the way down to local government. I'll give you a really simple example. Why do the police officers get to talk on their cell phone while they're driving 90 down the highway? Things like that they've given special privileges to government officials that the average person doesn't have. If it's a crime for me, it should be a crime for you. I get you got lights and sirens on, you're going to emergency. That's one thing. Reading, I've seen people looking at their laptop while going down 390.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, come on, that's not safe. And if that was me, I'd get nailed for that. I don't care who it is. It's not safe.
Why is Dean Skello still walking around?
Exactly.
Why is Sheldon Silver still walking around?
Yeah. What's going on?
These people have been arrested, tried and convicted, and they're still free.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big issue. So when government commits a crime, it's still a crime. I agree 100%. That was maybe one of the best things I heard. Like I said, there were a few things in there that was like, that's a little nugget. I hope people heard that and took that away. So now, next thing is Second Amendment. The inaccuracies were just so painful, so bad. I posted a meme about it last night. I was just like, hands in my face, and this goes back to the whole, you have people on the stage who clearly don't understand the system that they're talking about changing. They're pushing for regulations that already exist, have existed for decades, and they don't get it. So things like closing the gun show loophole.
Doesn't exist.
It hasn't existed. But it's a talking point that they use, and it's a rally cry, and the average person doesn't know it doesn't exist, and they go, "Yeah, we need to do this. We need to take action." It doesn't exist.
There's no gun show loophole, folks.
No gun show loophole.
It's kind of in the same category as the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah.
The gun show loophole.
You tell little kids.
You can't go to a gun show and just buy anything you want to without having a background check. Yeah. It doesn't happen.
Yeah. The other thing, this idea of universal background checks. Clearly, they've never heard of the NICS system, which has been in place ever since I've ever purchased a gun. Anytime I go purchase a firearm, I go through a federal, you could call it universal background check every single time. We've had these since at least 96, probably longer than that. I'm not sure how long it's been around. It's been around for a long time. So these candidates are pushing for things that they should really know about. If you're running for president of the United States and you don't understand that there is no gun show loophole, you don't understand that we already have the NICS system in place that we're funding, and you want to talk about implementing a system that already exists, I would give them credit if they identified that the system exists and talked about what changes they wanted to make to it. I would give them a pass and say they understand the issue. That's not what's happening. They're talking about creating a system that already exists. So there's an issue there. A bigger issue is some of the candidates are proposing mandatory gun buybacks. And that to me is just, it's insane. First, where's the money going to come from? Second, how are you going to enforce it?
First of all, I object to the whole concept of a buyback. Mm-hmm. The gun was never government's. You're not buying it back.
Yeah,
you're basically true. What you're doing is you're stealing it.
Yep.
And then they're going to be destroyed.
Compensated theft.
There's no buyback.
Yeah. So that to me was an issue. And then the candidate, this is one of the California candidates. They said, we need to ban the import of assault weapons. And I know in the background, this is a dog whistle. This person is talking about AR-15s. And clearly this person has no idea that that firearm originated here in the United States, is being manufactured here in the United States. Now, there's no such thing as assault weapon. We've talked about this on the show, but that's what she meant. She was talking about AR-15 platform rifles and doesn't even get or know or understand that we don't import those. We build them right here in America. Many companies make them right here in America. So just so many issues here. They're talking about creating regulations that exist, talking about things they don't understand. Somebody was talking about legislation they passed about clips, and they clearly didn't understand the definition of that word. Just so many things. They're trying to hit the buzzwords. They're trying to hit the hot topics without any actual content. And then Biden jumps in again, and he says that the NRA isn't the enemy, which I kind of wonder if we go back through his speeches if he's ever taken that position before or not. So that's kind of an interesting statement to make.
That's got potential.
Yeah. But he said the real enemy is the gun manufacturers. So so here we go. And then start talking about biological weapons, and smart guns that you can use only like with, I think they're thinking you're going to get a firearm that either works with your DNA or your fingerprint. That technology is not here. It's not there. And guess what? When somebody's breaking into your home at 3 o'clock in the morning, my recommendation is not going to be to take your shotgun and fire 2 shots out the balcony like Vice President Biden's advice was. And it's definitely not going to be, give your firearm a DNA sample so it can analyze it to allow you to defend yourself while you're being beaten by whoever is breaking into your home. So that got to me just a little bit, in case you guys couldn't tell.
More nonsensical gun legislation.
Yeah. So the last piece I'm going to hit, and I'm going to hit it real quick for you guys because we're almost out of time. Many of the candidates on stage during both groups said that these issues have been going on for greater than 40 years with a lot of things they were talking about. And my question to all those senators, congresspeople, former vice presidents is, if it's been going on for that long, and many of you have been in office for at least a decade, why haven't you fixed it already? Guys, I will catch you on Monday on Radio Free New York.